The morning alarm blared through Michaela James's tiny apartment, jolting her awake. She groaned and hit the snooze button, desperate for just 5 more minutes of sleep. At 25, she felt twice her age most days, her body aching from the constant hustle of working 2 jobs. "Grandma, you up?" Michaela called out, forcing herself to sit up. The hardwood floor felt cold beneath her feet as she shuffled to the bathroom. "Been up since 5, child," came the raspy reply from the kitchen. "Your coffee's ready." Michaela smiled despite her exhaustion. Grandma Rose was the one bright constant in her life, even as her health had started to decline. The smell of coffee and cinnamon wafted through their small 2-bedroom apartment. "Five didn't have to get up so early," Michaela said, entering the kitchen to find her grandmother already dressed in her favorite floral housecoat, seated at their tiny breakfast table. "Nonsense. My legs may not work like they used to, but my hands still do. Besides, you need a proper breakfast before all that running around you do." Michaela kissed her grandmother's cheek and poured herself a cup of coffee. "I've got the morning shift at the clinic. Then I need to drop off those cupcakes at the Johnson wedding before my evening baking shift." All that, and still making time. "To visit your old grandma?" Rose said with a wink. "Your daddy would be proud." The mention of her father made Michaela's heart twist. It had been 3 years since cancer took him, leaving her with nothing but memories and his old Chevy sedan. That car was more than transportation. It was the last piece of him she had. "I better get moving," Michaela said, gulping down her coffee. "Mrs. Peterson has an 8 a.m. appointment, and you know how she gets if I'm not there to greet her." 30 minutes later, Michaela was dressed in her professional receptionist outfit, a simple blouse and skirt that she'd found on sale last year. She grabbed her purse, her lunch, and the container of homemade banana bread she'd baked for the clinic. "Staff, take your medicine at noon, Grandma," she reminded. "I'll call to check on you during my lunch break." "Go on now, I'm not a child," Rose waved her away. "And don't forget to put gas in that car. That light's been on for 2 days. "Yes, ma'am," Michaela laughed, heading out the door. The stairwell of their building was dimly lit as always. Michaela carefully navigated the steps, balancing her things. Outside, the early summer heat already hung in the air, promising another sweltering New York day. Her father's old Chevy sat faithfully at the curb, its once blue paint now faded to a dull gray. Michaela slid into the driver's seat, running her hand affectionately over the worn steering wheel. "Morning, old friend," she whispered, a ritual she'd maintained since her father's passing. She turned the key in the ignition. The engine coughed, sputtered, then fell silent. "No, no, no," Michaela turned the key again. "Not today, please, not today." The car made a grinding noise that sent chills down her spine. One more try. Nothing but a click. Michaela rested her forehead against the steering wheel, fighting back tears. She couldn't afford a repair bill, not with Grandma Rose's medication eating up most of her paycheck. After a deep breath, she pulled out her phone and called the clinic. "Morning, Dr. Walker's office. This is Michaela." "Yes, Mrs. Peterson is first on the schedule. Actually, that's why I'm calling. My car won't start, and I might be a little late." "Yes, I'll try to find another." "Wait, thank you." Next, she searched for nearby auto repair shops. Most couldn't take her in for days. She scrolled further and saw Reynolds Auto listed as open with emergency services. The name sounded familiar. When their website loaded, she understood why. The sleek, modern page showcased luxury vehicles that cost more than she'd make in 5 years. "Great," she muttered. "The only place that can help me is for people who drive cars worth more than my apartment." With no other options, Michaela called the number. "Reynolds Auto, how may I assist you?" The receptionist's voice was polished and professional. "Hi, my car won't start and I'm desperate. Do you work on older models, like really old models?" A pause. "We service all vehicles, ma'am. What seems to be the problem?" "It won't turn over, just clicks. I need to get to work. We can send someone to tow it in right away. May I have your address?" 30 minutes later, a gleaming white tow truck with the Reynolds logo pulled up beside her car. The driver, a middle-aged man named Tony, was surprisingly friendly. Not at all what she expected from a high-end place. "Don't worry, sweetheart. We'll figure out what's wrong with your baby," he said as he hooked up the Chevy. Michaela bit her lip. "How much is this going to cost? Just the towing, I mean." Tony waved his hand. "Don't worry about that now. Let's just get you and your car to the shop." The drive to Reynolds' auto was short but intimidating. As they pulled into the lot, Michaela felt like a pauper entering a palace. The building was all glass and chrome, with a showroom full of vehicles that gleamed under perfect lighting. Customers in expensive suits and dresses mingled with salespeople. "I don't belong here," Michaela whispered to herself as Tony parked the tow truck. Inside, the reception area looked more like a luxury hotel lobby than an auto shop. A blonde woman in a designer suit sat behind a marble counter. "Name?" she asked, without looking up from her computer. "Michaela James, my car was just towed in." The woman typed something, then frowned. "The Chevrolet from East Harlem?" Michaela felt her cheeks burn. "Yes? Have a seat. Someone will be with you shortly." The woman gestured to a leather sofa that probably cost more than Michaela's monthly rent. Michaela sat clutching her purse, feeling completely out of place. She texted her boss to explain the situation, then called her grandmother to check in. 20 minutes passed before the receptionist called her name. "Ms. James? They're ready for you in the service area." Michaela followed the woman through a door that led to the repair shop. Here, the pristine facade gave way to the familiar sights and sounds of mechanics at work. The smell of oil and metal filled the air. Her old Chevy looked even more pathetic, surrounded by Porsches and BMWs. A man in coveralls was bent over the open hood, his back to her. "Sir?" Michaela approached cautiously. "That's my car." When he turned, Michaela nearly gasped. Despite the smudges of grease on his face, he was strikingly handsome. Dark hair, strong jawline, and the most intense blue eyes she'd ever seen. His plain gray t-shirt was stained with oil, and his hands were rough with calluses. "Michaela James?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag. "Yes, that's me." He smiled, and something inside her fluttered. "I'm Ethan, just taking a first look at your car." No last name, just Ethan. Clearly one of the mechanics. "What's the verdict?" she asked, bracing herself for bad news. "Well, your starter's shot, and your battery's on its last legs. But that's not the worst of it. Your timing belt is about to go, and when that happens..." He whistled low. "How much?" Michaela cut to the chase, her voice small. Ethan studied her face for a moment. "Let me work up an estimate, but I'm guessing it's around $800 for parts and labor." Michaela felt the floor shift beneath her. $800 might as well have been $8 million. I don't have that kind of money right now." Instead of the dismissal she expected, Ethan's expression softened. "Let me see what I can do. We've got some refurbished parts that might work, and..." He hesitated. "I could handle the labor myself, off the clock." "Why would you do that?" Michaela asked, suspicious. Men didn't offer help without expecting something. In return, her mother's string of heartbreaks had taught her that much. "Because that car means something to you," he said simply. "I can tell by the way you look at it." "My dad had a car like that, not worth much to anyone else, but priceless to him." Something in his tone made Michaela believe him. "It was my father's. He passed away 3 years ago." Ethan nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Give me until tomorrow. I'll call you when I know more." "I need the car for work," Michaela said, panic rising. "I can't miss shifts." "Where do you work?" "Mornings at Walker Medical Clinic, evenings at Sweet Dreams Bakery in Midtown." "I'll have someone drop you at work now and pick you up when your shift ends," Ethan said, reaching for a phone on the wall. "No charge." "I can't accept, it's just good business," he cut in with a smile. "Can't have our customers stranded, can we?" Before she could argue further, Ethan had arranged for a driver to take her to the clinic. The driver arrived in a sleek black sedan that made Michaela uncomfortable just sitting in it. Throughout her shift at the clinic, Michaela couldn't stop thinking about Ethan. There was something about him, a kindness behind those blue eyes that seemed genuine. But experience had taught her not to trust first impressions, especially when it came to men. Her cell phone rang just as she was preparing to leave for her baking job. Unknown number. "Hello? Michaela? It's Ethan from Reynolds Auto." Her heart did a little jump at the sound of his voice. "Hi, any news about my car?" "That's why I'm calling. I found a refurbished starter, but the timing belt is special order. It'll take a few days." Michaela closed her eyes. A few days without her car meant relying on public transportation, which would add hours to her commute. "I understand," she said, trying to keep the disappointment from her voice. "But here's what I can do," Ethan continued. "We've got a loaner car program for our customers. I can set you up with something until your car is ready." "A loaner? From a luxury dealership? For me?" Michaela laughed. "I don't think my insurance covers Mercedes or Jaguars." "It's covered under our policy," Ethan assured her. "And it's nothing fancy, just a basic sedan we keep for situations like this." "What's the catch?" Michaela asked before she could stop herself. There was a pause, then Ethan chuckled. "No catch, just trying to help out." Against her better judgment, Michaela agreed. The same driver who had taken her to work arrived to transport her to the bakery, promising to return at closing time to take her back to Reynolds Auto. The evening shift at Sweet Dreams Bakery was busy as usual. Michaela lost herself in the rhythm of measuring, mixing, and decorating. By the time 10 p.m. rolled around, she was exhausted, but satisfied with the 3 dozen cupcakes and 2 wedding cake tiers she'd completed. True to his word, the driver was waiting outside. Back at Reynolds Auto, the main showroom was closed, but the service area remained lit. As she entered, she found Ethan still there, bent over her car's engine. "You're still working on it?" Michaela asked, surprised. Ethan straightened, half wiping sweat from his brow. Wanted to get as much done as possible before the parts arrive. In the quiet of the nearly empty shop, with his sleeves rolled up and concentration etched on his face, he looked different than he had that morning. More accessible, more real. "You don't have to do this," Michaela said softly. "I know." He smiled, and that flutter returned to her chest. "But I want to." He led her to a modest Hyundai parked near the entrance. "Your chariot awaits. It's not much, but it'll get you where you need to go." "It's perfect," Michaela said, genuinely grateful. "Thank you. Don't mention it, just fill it up before you bring it back." He handed her the keys, their fingers brushing briefly. "And Michaela, try not to worry about your car. I've got this." She drove home in the borrowed car. Michaela couldn't help but smile. Maybe, just maybe, there were still good people in the world, even in places as unlikely as luxury car dealerships. The next few days fell into a routine. Michaela would stop by Reynolds Auto after her evening shift to check on her car's progress. Each time Ethan was there, working late, always in his oil-stained t-shirt and jeans. Their conversations started small, talk about the car, the weather, her jobs. But gradually they began to share more. "So 2 jobs plus taking care of your grandmother?" Ethan asked on the 3rd night, handing her a cup of coffee from the shop's break room. "That's a lot for anyone to handle," Michaela shrugged. "You do what you have to for family. What about the baking? Is that just for the money, or do you enjoy it?" The question surprised her. Most people didn't ask about her interests. "I love it, actually. Started helping my grandma in the kitchen when I was just tall enough to reach the counter. Something about creating something delicious from scratch. It's like magic." Ethan's eyes lit up. "My mom was a baker. Nothing professional, but our house always smelled like bread and cinnamon." "Was?" Michaela asked gently. "She passed away when I was in college." "Cancer." "I'm sorry," Michaela said, recognizing the familiar pain in his voice. "That's how I lost my dad, too." A moment of understanding passed between them, a connection forged from shared loss. "What about you?" Michaela asked, changing the subject. "Always wanted to be a mechanic?" A strange expression crossed Ethan's face. "Cars are in my blood, I guess you could say. My father taught me everything I know." "He must be proud of you." Ethan's smile turned sad. "He passed a few years ago. Heart attack." "I'm sorry," Michaela said again, feeling a deeper connection to this man who, like her, carried the weight of grief. "I'd like you," Ethan said suddenly. He always respected hard workers. The comment warmed her more than it should have. On the 5th day, when Michaela arrived at the shop, Ethan was waiting with a broad smile. "Got the parts this morning. Your car will be ready tomorrow." "Really?" Michaela couldn't hide her excitement. "That's amazing. How much do I owe you?" Ethan handed her an invoice. The total was $350, less than half what he'd initially estimated. "This can't be right," Michaela said, frowning at the paper. Employee discount, Ethan explained. Plus, I found better deals on some parts. I can't accept this, Michaela protested. Sure you can. Consider it my good deed for the month. His smile was warm, genuine. Besides, you've been bringing me homemade cookies every day. Those things are worth their weight in gold. Michaela laughed, knowing she was fighting a losing battle. At least let me bring you a proper thank you. Maybe some of my special cinnamon rolls. I'd like that, Ethan said. Then, hesitating slightly, he added, Actually, we're having an open house here tomorrow night, showcasing some new models, serving refreshments, nothing fancy. But they're looking for a local bakery to cater future events. Maybe you could bring some samples. I told the event coordinator about your baking. Michaela blinked in surprise. You want me to bring my baking here? To a fancy car dealership event? Why not? Your stuff is better than anything they'll get from those overpriced Manhattan bakeries. He looked at her earnestly. It could be a good opportunity for you. The invitation was unexpected but tempting. A catering contract with a place like Reynolds Auto could be significant. Okay, she agreed. What time? 7. I'll leave your name at the door. He paused, then added, and maybe after it's over we could grab a coffee or something. Michaela felt her cheeks warm. Was he asking her out? I'd like that, she heard herself say. That night, Michaela baked like a woman possessed. Miniature. Cheesecakes, chocolate truffles, lemon tarts, and her signature cinnamon rolls. By morning, her kitchen looked like a flower bomb had exploded, but the results were worth it. My goodness, child, Grandma Rose said, eyeing the spread. You trying to feed an army? It's for an event at the car place, Michaela explained carefully, packing everything into containers. The mechanic who's been fixing Dad's car thinks they might want to hire me for catering. Rose raised an eyebrow. This mechanic? Is he handsome? Grandma, don't grandma me, I've seen that look before. Your mother had it every time she met a new man. Michaela's smile faded. I'm not, Mom. Rose's expression softened. No, you're not. You're smarter, stronger. But don't let what happened to her stop you from finding happiness. It's not like that, Michaela insisted. He's just being nice. Rose hummed, unconvinced. Just be careful. Men who fix things for a living sometimes think they can fix people too. The warning stayed with Michaela as she dressed for the event that evening. She chose a simple black dress, professional but flattering. Her natural curls were pulled back in a neat bun, and she applied light makeup, something she rarely bothered with for her regular jobs. The loaner car was packed with her carefully arranged treats. When she arrived at Reynolds Auto at 6:45 p.m., the dealership had been transformed. Soft lighting illuminated the vehicles, making them gleam like jewels. Well-dressed people milled about with champagne flutes, examining the cars with appreciative murmurs. Michaela felt out of place immediately. This wasn't just a casual open house, it was clearly an event for the wealthy elite of Manhattan. A hostess approached her. May I help you? I'm Michaela James. Ethan invited me. She gestured to her containers. I brought some baked goods for the event coordinator to try. The woman checked a tablet. Ah, yes, Ms. James, please follow me. She was led to a table at the back of the showroom where she began arranging her treats. As she worked, she scanned the room for Ethan but didn't see him among the mechanics or staff. A tall woman in a designer suit approached, introducing herself as Patricia, the event coordinator. She examined Michaela's offerings with a critical, these look interesting, she said in a tone that suggested the opposite. But we typically use Bellinis for our events. They're very exclusive. Just give them a taste, Michaela urged, trying to hide her disappointment. That's all. I ask. Patricia took a reluctant bite of a mini cheesecake. Her eyes widened slightly. This is quite good. Not what I expected. Before long, guests began wandering over, drawn by the display. Comments like divine and extraordinary floated around Michaela as people sampled her work. Patricia's attitude shifted, and she began asking questions about pricing and availability. Still, there was no sign of Ethan. Had he forgotten she was coming? As the crowd thinned around her table, Michaela decided to look for him. Perhaps he was in the service area, still working on her car. She made her way through the showroom, admiring the vehicles she could never afford. Near the back wall, A large portrait caught her eye. An older man with the same striking blue eyes as Ethan, standing proudly beside a vintage car. The plaque beneath it read, "Richard Reynolds, Founder." Next to it hung a framed magazine article. The headline made her heart stop. "The young king of luxury auto." And there, in a perfectly tailored suit, was Ethan. Not covered in grease, not in a plain t-shirt, but polished, poised, and identified as Ethan Reynolds, CEO. The world seemed to tilt beneath her feet. Ethan wasn't a mechanic, he was the owner, the billionaire owner of Reynolds Auto. Just then, a voice came over the PA system. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the man behind Reynolds Auto's continued success, Mr. Ethan Reynolds." Michaela turned to see Ethan walking onto a small stage at the center of the showroom. Gone was the grease-stained t-shirt, replaced by an impeccable suit that probably cost more than her yearly rent. His hair was neatly styled, his face clean-shaven. He looked like a stranger. As he began to speak about the company's legacy and future, Michaela felt a cold realization wash over her. Everything had been a lie. He wasn't a humble mechanic. He was exactly the type of wealthy, powerful man her mother had warned her about. The type who played with people's feelings for their own amusement. Backing away from the portrait, Michaela bumped into someone. "Careful there," said a man in an expensive suit. He glanced at her, then at the portrait, admiring the Reynolds men. Ethan's nothing like his old man, though. Richard built this place with his own 2 hands. Ethan was born with a silver spoon and a trust fund. "You know him?" Michaela asked, her voice barely steady. "Board member," the man replied, offering his hand. "Alexander Whitman, and you are?" "Nobody," Michaela said, not taking his hand. "Excuse me." She hurried back to her table, gathering her containers with trembling hands. She needed to leave before Ethan spotted her, before she had to face the humiliation of confronting him. But as she reached the exit, a familiar voice called her name. "Michaela!" "Wait!" She turned to see Ethan rushing toward her, concern written across his handsome face. He looked between her and the containers in her arms. "Where are you going? The event's not over and everyone loves your baking." He reached for her arm, but she stepped back. "Don't touch me," she said, her voice low and controlled despite the storm inside her. "You lied to me." Confusion crossed his features. "What are you talking about? You're not a mechanic, you're Ethan Reynolds, the owner." Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed quickly by guilt. "I can explain." "Explain what? How you pretended to be someone you're not? How you let me believe you were just a regular guy working on my car?" "It wasn't like that," Ethan protested. "I never lied about who I was." "You never told the truth either," Michaela shot back. "Was this some kind of game to you? The billionaire, playing mechanic, helping the poor girl with her broken-down car?" "No, I really was trying to help." "Well, I don't need your kind of help," Michaela said, her voice rising. "I don't need your charity, and I don't need your lies." People were starting to stare. Ethan lowered his voice. "Please, can we talk somewhere private? I never meant to mislead you." "Then what did you mean to do?" Michaela demanded. "Because from where I'm standing, you've been pretending to be someone else this whole time." Before he could answer, Patricia appeared at his side. "Ethan, the investors are waiting for your presentation." "Give me a minute," he said, not taking his eyes off Michaela. "They've been waiting 15 minutes already," Patricia insisted. "This is important." Michaela shook her head, a bitter laugh escaping her. "Go ahead, Mr. Reynolds. Your real life is calling." With that, she pushed past him and out the door, not allowing herself to look back even as he called her name. Outside in the parking lot, Michaela realized she still had the loaner car. She couldn't leave it here, she needed to get home. But tomorrow, first thing, she would return it and find another way to get her father's car back, even if it meant emptying her savings account. As she drove home, tears blurred her vision. She felt foolish, naive, just like her mother had been, falling for men who only brought heartbreak. Her grandmother had been right to warn her. When she arrived home, Rose took one look at her face and opened her arms. Michaela collapsed into them, sobbing like she hadn't done since her father died. "What happened, baby?" Rose asked, stroking her hair. Between tears, Michaela told her everything about the car, about Ethan, about the discovery of his true identity. "He made a fool of me, Grandma," she finished, wiping her eyes, "just like those men did to Mom." Rose was quiet for a long moment. Did he ever actually lie to you? He let me believe he was just a mechanic. Did he say that? Michaela hesitated. No, but he acted like it. He was always covered in grease working on cars. Maybe that's who he is, Rose suggested gently. Not all rich folks are like the man who hurt your mama. Some of them remember where they came from. It doesn't matter, Michaela said firmly. I don't want anything to do with him or his money. But as she lay in bed that night, she couldn't stop thinking about the Ethan she'd known, the man who stayed late to work on her car, who listened when she talked about her baking, who understood the value of her father's old Chevy. Had that all been an act? Or was there truth beneath the deception? Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Please let me explain. I never meant to hurt you. Ethan. Michaela turned off her phone without replying. She didn't need explanations or excuses. What she needed was to protect her heart from making the same mistakes her mother had made. Tomorrow, she would return the loaner car, pay whatever it took to get her father's Chevy back, and put Ethan Reynolds and his luxury dealership firmly in her rearview mirror. But as sleep finally claimed her, one question lingered. If he was just playing a game, why did it hurt so much to walk away? Morning sunlight streamed through Michaela's bedroom window, pulling her from a restless sleep. Her eyes felt swollen from crying, and the events of the previous night crashed back into her memory. Ethan Reynolds wasn't a mechanic. He was the billionaire owner of Reynolds Auto. Her phone showed 3 missed calls and 5 text messages, all from the same unknown number she now knew was Ethan's. She deleted them without reading and got ready. For work. You look terrible, Grandma Rose said bluntly when Michaela entered the kitchen. Didn't sleep? Not much. Michaela poured herself coffee, avoiding her grandmother's knowing gaze. I'm returning the loaner car to Reynolds Auto this morning before work. Can you call Mrs. Rivera next door to check on you today? I don't need checking on, Rose huffed. And you're not thinking straight. How will you get to work if you return that car? Michaela hadn't thought that far ahead. I'll figure something out. Rose hummed. And your daddy's car, it's still at that dealership, isn't it? I'll pay whatever I need to get it back, Michaela said firmly. With what money? The money for my medicine? Rose shook her head. Pride is expensive, child. Michaela had no answer for that. Her grandmother was right. She couldn't afford to let emotions drive her decisions. Not when so many people depended on her. Fine, she conceded. I'll keep the loaner until my car is fixed, but that's it. And what about this Ethan? Rose pressed. You gonna hear him out? There's nothing to hear, Michaela insisted, grabbing her purse. He lied. End of story. Rose caught her arm as she turned to leave. Your mama never gave men a chance to explain themselves, always running at the first sign of trouble. Look where that got her. The comparison stung. Michaela's mother had bounced from one bad relationship to another, always convinced the next man would be different, always devastated when he wasn't. She'd died 5 years ago, bitter and alone. I'm nothing like her, Michaela said, pulling away. No, you're not, Rose agreed. You're stronger, strong enough to face this man and hear what he has to say. With those words ringing in her ears, Michaela drove to the clinic. The borrowed Hyundai felt foreign compared to her father's comfortable old Chevy, just as the memory of Ethan in his expensive suit felt wrong compared to the grease-stained man who'd worked on her car. Her morning shift passed in a blur. Around noon, her phone buzzed with a text from Reynolds Auto, not from Ethan, but from the service department. Your vehicle is ready for pickup. Please call to arrange payment and collection. Michaela stared at the message. She should feel relieved. But instead, a hollow feeling spread through her chest. Once she had her car back, she'd have no reason to ever see Ethan again. As her shift ended, another text arrived. This one from Ethan. I'll be at the Coffee Bean on 42nd at 5 p.m. Please come. Just 10 minutes of your time. She should ignore it. Should drive straight to Reynolds Auto, pay for her car, and put this whole humiliating episode behind her. That's what her mother would have done. But she wasn't her mother. At 5:10 p.m., Michaela pushed open the door of the Coffee Bean. The cafe was busy with the after-work crowd, but she spotted Ethan immediately, sitting alone at a corner table. He wore jeans and a simple button-down shirt. Not quite the mechanic's clothes she'd grown accustomed to, but not the power suit from the event either. He looked up, relief washing over his face when he saw her. "You came." "I've got 10 minutes, Michaela said, sliding into the chair across from him. "Talk." Ethan took a deep breath. "First, I want to apologize. You're right. I should have been honest about who I was from the beginning." "Why weren't you?" Michaela demanded. "Because the moment people find out I'm Ethan Reynolds, everything changes," he said, frustration evident in his voice. "They don't see me anymore. They see the bank account, the company, the connections." "So you lied." "I never actually said I was just a mechanic," Ethan pointed out. "I just didn't correct your assumption." "That's still deception," Michaela said, crossing her arms. "You're right." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she'd seen him make many times in the repair shop. "But those conversations we had, the time we spent together, that was real, Michaela. That was the real me. How am I supposed to believe that? How do I know which version of you is the real Ethan Reynolds?" "Both are," he said simply. "I grew up in my father's shop. He started Reynolds Auto as a regular repair shop in Queens. Did you know that? Before the luxury cars and Manhattan showroom, it was just him fixing engines and me, a kid with grease under my fingernails, learning at his side." Michaela hadn't known that. The revelation surprised her. "After college, when I joined the business, Dad was already expanding, moving upscale," Ethan continued. "When he died 4 years ago, I took over completely. The board pushed for more growth, more luxury focus. And somewhere along the way, I lost touch with what made me love this business in the first place: the cars, the work, the people." His eyes met hers, earnest and unguarded. "So yeah, I still put on coveralls and work on engines sometimes. It keeps me grounded, reminds me where we came from." "And my car?" Michaela asked. "Was that just a convenient way to—" "What?" "Play out your blue-collar fantasy?" Ethan flinched. "That's not fair. I genuinely wanted to help you. When Tony towed in that Chevy and I saw how much it meant to you, how worried you were about the cost, I just wanted to fix it, to make things better." "I don't need saving, Ethan," Michaela said sharply. "I know that. You're the most capable person I've ever met," he said, leaning forward. 2 jobs, taking care of your grandmother, still finding time to bake those amazing desserts. You're incredible. That's why I couldn't stop thinking about you." Despite herself, Michaela felt a warmth spreading through her chest at his words. "The truth is," Ethan continued, "when I'm with you, I don't feel like the CEO or the heir to the Reynolds fortune. I feel like myself, just Ethan, the guy who loves cars and can't bake to save his life. That doesn't change the fact that you—" "Let me believe something that wasn't true," Michaela said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. "No, it doesn't," Ethan nodded, accepting the criticism. "And I'm sorry for that. But I'm asking for a chance to show you who I really am. All of me, no more secrets." Michaela studied his face, searching for signs of deception, but all she saw was the same honest intensity she'd come to associate with the man who'd bent over her father's car, working late into the evening. Her 10 minutes were up. She should leave, stick to her plan of getting her car, and never looking. "Pack, your car's ready," Ethan said, as if reading her thoughts. "No charge." "What?" Michaela's eyes widened. "No, I can't accept that." "It's not charity," Ethan insisted. "Consider it my apology for not being straight with you from the start. I can't—" "Please," he cut her off. "Let me do this one thing. After that, if you never want to see me again, I'll understand." Michaela hesitated. Her pride wanted to refuse. But practicality won out. The money she'd save could go toward Grandma Rose's medications. "Fine," she conceded, "but this doesn't mean I forgive you." "I know." A small smile tugged at Ethan's lips. "But maybe it's a start." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed with an incoming call. "Grandma Rose." "I need to take this," Michaela said, standing up. "My grandmother—" "Go ahead." Ethan nodded. Michaela stepped outside the cafe to answer. "Grandma, everything okay?" "Not really, baby." Rose's voice sounded strained. "I'm having that chest pain again. Worse this time." Fear clutched at Michaela's heart. "I'm coming right now. Have you taken your medicine?" "Yes, but it's not helping much. I'm on my way. Should I call an ambulance?" No, Rose protested. "Just come home. You can drive me if it gets worse." Michaela ended the call and rushed. Back inside, panic evident on her face. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked, immediately on his feet. "My grandmother. She's having chest pains. I need to go." "I'll drive you," Ethan said without hesitation. "You don't have to." "Your car's still at the dealership. Remember, let me help." There was no time to argue. Michaela nodded, and they hurried outside to where Ethan's car was parked. Not a flashy sports car as she might have expected, but a practical, if expensive, SUV. The drive to East Harlem was tense, with Michaela giving directions and trying to call her grandmother, who wasn't answering. When they arrived at her building, Michaela leapt from the car before Ethan had fully stopped. "7th floor, apartment 7C, she called over her shoulder as she ran for the entrance. By the time Ethan caught up to her, she was already knocking frantically on her apartment door. "Grandma? It's me, open up." No answer. With shaking hands, Michaela fumbled for her keys and unlocked the door. Inside, they found Rose slumped in her favorite armchair, conscious but pale, her breathing labored. "Grandma!" Michaela rushed to her side, taking her hand. "We need to get you to the hospital." "I told you no hospitals," Rose protested weakly. "Too expensive." "We're going," Michaela insisted. "Ethan, help me get her to the car." Without a word, Ethan stepped forward. With gentle strength, he helped Rose to her feet, supporting her weight easily. "It's going to be okay, Mrs. James," he assured her as they made their way slowly to the door. "We'll take good care of you." In the car, Michaela sat in the back with her grandmother, monitoring her breathing while Ethan drove to the nearest hospital. He called ahead on the car's Bluetooth, explaining the situation so that medical staff were waiting when they arrived. The next few hours passed in a blur of forms, examinations, and anxious waiting. Rose was admitted for observation, with doctors suspecting angina but wanting to run tests to rule out a heart attack. As night fell, Michaela sat beside her grandmother's hospital bed, watching the monitors beeping steadily. Ethan had stepped out to make some calls, giving them privacy. "That's a good man," Rose said suddenly, her voice stronger than it had been earlier. "You don't even know him," Michaela replied, adjusting the blanket over her grandmother's legs. "I know enough. The way he carried me, how he talked to those doctors, making sure I got the best care without making me feel like a charity case." Rose fixed her granddaughter with a knowing look. "And the way he looks at you." "Grandma, please don't start." "Listen to me," Rose interrupted. "I've lived long enough to recognize when someone cares. That man cares about you, not your money, not what you can do for him. You." Michaela sighed. "It's complicated." "Only because you're making it that way," Rose countered. "So he's rich, so he didn't tell you right away who he was. Ask yourself why that bothers you so much." Before Michaela could answer, a knock at the door announced Ethan's return. He carried a tray with 3 cups of coffee. "Hope I'm not interrupting," he said, offering the drinks. "Hospital coffee isn't great, but it's hot." "You're a lifesaver," Rose said, accepting a cup. "Quite literally tonight." Ethan smiled. "The nurse says your tests look encouraging. No signs of a heart attack, but they want to keep you overnight. Just to be safe." "Thank you for helping us," Michaela said quietly. "I don't know what we would have done if—" "Don't mention it," Ethan cut her off gently. "I'm just glad I was there." Rose looked between them, then faked a yawn. "I think I need to rest now. Michaela, why don't you walk this nice young man out? I'll be fine for a few minutes." Michaela recognized her grandmother's matchmaking attempts but didn't protest. She led Ethan to the hospital corridor. "She seems better," Ethan commented. "Strong woman." "Strongest I know," Michaela agreed. "Raised me after my dad died and my mom I checked out." They walked in silence for a moment. "I should get back to her," Michaela said finally, "but thank you again for everything." "Will you be okay here all night?" Ethan asked. "I could bring you some food or a change of clothes from your apartment." The offer was tempting. The thought of spending the night in an uncomfortable hospital chair in her work clothes wasn't appealing. "Actually, that would be helpful," Michaela admitted. "If it's not too much trouble." "No trouble at all." Ethan's smile was warm. "Just tell me what you need." 20 minutes later, Ethan departed with her apartment keys and a list of items. Alone with her thoughts, Michaela tried to make sense of the conflicting emotions swirling inside her. Anger at Ethan's deception still simmered, but alongside it grew a reluctant appreciation for his kindness tonight. When he returned an hour later with not only her requested items, but also a bag of takeout from a nearby diner, Michaela felt something inside her soften further. "The nurse said it was okay to bring food," Ethan explained, setting the bags down. "I got meatloaf for your grandmother. You mentioned it's her favorite." "You remembered that?" Michaela was surprised. She'd only mentioned it once during one of their conversations at the shop. "I remember everything you tell me," Ethan said simply. Their eyes met, and for a moment, Michaela forgot why she'd been so angry. Here was the man she'd come to know over the past week, thoughtful, genuine, kind. The moment was broken by a nurse entering to check Rose's vitals. Ethan excused himself, promising to call in the morning to check on them. At the door, he paused. "Michaela, your car will be delivered to your apartment tomorrow. The keys will be at the front desk of your building." "You don't have to." "I want to," he insisted. "One less thing for you to worry about." After he left, Michaela returned to her grandmother's bedside. Rose was already digging into the meatloaf with surprising appetite. "This is better than what they serve here," she declared. "That boy has good taste." "He's not a boy, Grandma. He's the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. CEO mechanic. Doesn't matter what he does. It's who he is that counts." Rose fixed her with a pointed look. "And who he is someone who drives across town to bring an old woman her favorite meal when she's sick." Michaela couldn't argue with that. Morning brought good news. Rose's tests showed no serious heart damage, and the doctor diagnosed her with stable angina that could be managed with medication. She was discharged with a prescription and instructions to follow up with her regular physician. As they prepared to leave, Michaela wondered how they would get home. She was about to call a cab when Ethan appeared in the doorway. "Thought you might need a ride," he said. "How did you know we'd be leaving?" "Now?" Michaela asked. Ethan looked slightly embarrassed. "I might have called the nurse's station this morning to check on Mrs. James's status." "Isn't he thoughtful?" Rose said, smiling broadly. The drive home was different from the tense journey to the hospital. Rose chatted animatedly in the back seat, asking Ethan about his business and sharing stories about her late husband's love for cars. "James could fix anything with an engine," she boasted. "Taught his daughter everything he knew, too. Michaela can change a tire faster than most men." "I've seen her knowledge firsthand," Ethan replied, glancing at Michaela with admiration. "She knew exactly what was wrong with her car before I even looked at it." When they arrived at the apartment building, Ethan insisted on helping Rose upstairs. Once inside, Michaela prepared to thank him and send him on his way, but Rose had other ideas. "I'll stay for lunch," she announced. "Not a question, but a command. I make a mean chicken sandwich, and it's the least we can do after all your help." "Grandma, I'm sure Ethan has to get back to work," Michaela protested. "Actually," Ethan said, checking his watch, "I'm free until 3. A sandwich sounds great if it's not too much trouble." And so, to Michaela's surprise, the billionaire CEO of Reynolds Auto ended up sitting at their small kitchen table, eating chicken sandwiches and listening to Rose's stories about the neighborhood. Watching him there, laughing at her grandmother's jokes, offering to help with the dishes, seeming completely at ease in their modest apartment, Michaela felt her resistance crumbling. This man, with his kind eyes and genuine smile, didn't match her preconceptions about wealthy businessmen. When Rose excused herself for a nap, Michaela walked Ethan to the door. "Thank you for everything," she said. "The hospital, the ride, putting up with my grandmother's interrogation." Ethan chuckled. "Your grandmother is wonderful, reminds me of my dad. Straight talking, no nonsense." "She likes you," Michaela admitted, "and her judgment of character is usually spot on." Hope flickered in Ethan's eyes. "And what about you? Has your judgment changed at all?" Michaela hesitated. "I'm still processing everything, but I'm willing to give you a chance to prove you're the person I thought you were before I knew about—" She gestured vaguely. "All the rest of it." "That's all I'm asking for," Ethan said, his smile brightening. "Maybe dinner this weekend. A proper date, no car repairs or hospital visits." Before Michaela could answer, her phone rang. Sweet Dreams Bakery flashing on the screen. "I need to take this," she apologized. "It's my boss." The call was brief but devastating. Due to her unexpected absence the previous night, they'd had to scramble to cover her shift. With regret, the manager informed her that they were letting her go. "Everything okay?" Ethan asked when she hung up, concern evident in his voice. "They fired me," Michaela said, her voice hollow. "The bakery because I missed my shift last night." "That's ridiculous. Your grandmother was in the hospital. They said they've already hired someone else." Michaela sank onto the couch, the full weight of the situation hitting her. "I can't believe this. I needed that job." Ethan sat beside her. "I'm so sorry, Michaela. This is my fault. If I hadn't—" "It's not your fault," she cut him off. "Family comes first. I would have missed that shift regardless. Still, I feel responsible." Ethan was quiet for a moment, then said carefully, "I might have a solution if you're interested." Michaela looked up, immediately suspicious. "What kind of solution?" "Reynolds Auto hosts events at least twice a month. After tasting your baking last night, Patricia, our event coordinator, was impressed. She asked me for your contact information this morning." "You want me to cater your events?" Michaela asked, surprised. "It would probably pay better than the bakery, and the hours would be more flexible," Ethan said. "Plus, it could lead to other opportunities. Many of our clients are always looking for quality caterers." The offer was tempting, but Michaela hesitated. "I don't want special treatment because of whatever this is between us." "It's not special treatment," Ethan assured her. "Your baking speaks for itself. Patricia doesn't even like me that much. She wouldn't suggest hiring you if she didn't think you were talented." Michaela considered the proposition. It would solve her immediate financial problem, and the flexible hours would make it easier to care for Rose. "I'll think about it," she said finally. "That's fair," Ethan nodded. "No pressure." He stood to cue leave, then added, "About dinner this weekend." "Let me get through this week first," Michaela said. "Figure out the job situation, make sure Grandma is stable. Then we can talk about these other things." "Of course." Ethan reached for her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "Take all the time you need. I'm not going anywhere." After he left, Michaela checked outside her building. Sure enough, her father's Chevy was parked at the curb, looking better than it had in years. The paint was still faded, the upholstery still worn, but the engine purred when she turned the key. Inside the glove compartment, she found an envelope. Opening it, she discovered a detailed invoice showing all the work that had been done. Not just the starter and timing belt, but a full tune-up, new brakes, and various other improvements. At the bottom, in handwriting she recognized as Ethan's, was a note. Not charity, an investment in something precious, like the memories it holds. Michaela touched the steering wheel, remembering her father's hands there. For the first time since discovering Ethan's true identity, she felt a smile form on her lips. Maybe, just maybe, Ethan Reynolds wasn't like the men who had broken her mother's heart. Maybe he was something else entirely, someone worth taking a chance on. But as she climbed the stairs back to her apartment, doubt crept in again. She'd seen how differently people treated Ethan when they knew who he was. The fawning respect, the eager compliance. Could any relationship survive such an imbalance of power and wealth? Her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. "Just wanted to make sure the car's running okay. Also forgot to mention, the board meeting scheduled for tomorrow was moved up. They're pushing for changes I don't agree with. Wish I had your strength right now." The message surprised her, not the part about the car, but the glimpse into his professional challenges, the admission of vulnerability. It reminded her that, beneath the wealth and status, Ethan faced his own struggles. For the first time, Michaela allowed herself to truly consider the possibility of a relationship with him. Not the fantasy of a simple mechanic, nor the intimidating vision of a billionaire CEO, but the complex, flawed, genuine man who existed beyond both labels. As she helped Rose prepare for bed that night, her grandmother noticed her thoughtful expression. "Penny for your thoughts?" Rose asked. "Just thinking about Ethan," Michaela admitted. "And how complicated everything's become," Rose chuckled. "Love's always complicated, child. The question is whether it's worth fighting through the complications." "Who said anything about love?" Michaela protested. "Nobody needed to say it," Rose replied with a knowing smile. "It's written all over both your faces." Later, lying in bed, Michaela replayed her grandmother's words. Was it possible she was falling for Ethan? Despite the deception, despite the differences in their worlds, her phone lit up with one final text from him. "Whatever you decide about the catering or dinner or anything else, just know that the past week, getting to know you, working on your car, talking with you, has been the most real thing in my life in a long time. Good night, Michaela." She read the message twice, then typed a response before she could second-guess herself. The car runs perfectly. About dinner this weekend. I'm free Saturday. Good night, Ethan. As she drifted off to sleep, Michaela wasn't sure what the future held, but for the first time in years, she was willing to find out, rather than shutting the door before giving someone a chance. Whether that was growth or foolishness remained to be seen. What she didn't know was that across town in his penthouse apartment, Ethan sat in a conference call with his board of directors, fighting a battle that would put their fledgling relationship to the ultimate test. "The East Harlem location is perfect for our expansion," Alexander Whitman was saying. "The neighborhood is gentrifying, property values are rising, and we can get the land cheap if we move now." "That area is full of local businesses and residential buildings," Ethan argued. "People who've lived there for generations would be displaced." "That's progress, Ethan," another board member chimed in. "Your father understood that business requires tough decisions." Ethan thought of Michaela and Rose, of their apartment building, their neighborhood. "My father also understood the value of community. I won't support this plan." "You may not have a choice," Alexander said coldly. "Remember, you might be CEO, but the board has certain powers. We've already begun preliminary assessments of the area." As the call ended, Ethan sat in troubled silence. The proposed location for Reynolds Auto's new flagship showroom and service center was the very block where Michaela lived. If the board got their way, her building would be demolished to make room for luxury cars and wealthy clients. How could he tell her that the company bearing his name might destroy her home? And more importantly, how could he stop it from happening without losing control of his father's legacy? The clock on his wall ticked steadily toward midnight, each second bringing him closer to a decision that would change everything, for his business, for Michaela, and for whatever future they might have together. Saturday evening arrived faster than Michaela expected. After a week of adjusting to her new reality, one job instead of two, Grandma Rose's new medication routine, and the lingering uncertainty about Ethan, she found herself standing before her closet, unsure what to wear for their dinner date. "The idea, blue dress," Rose called from the doorway, leaning on her walker. "It brings out your eyes. Are you sure it's not too fancy?" Michaela held up the dress, a simple but elegant knee-length number she'd bought on sale last year, but never had occasion to wear. "For dinner with a billionaire?" Rose raised an eyebrow. "If anything, it's not fancy enough. He's just Ethan," Michaela said, though she wasn't sure who she was trying to convince. Rose smiled knowingly. "Keep telling yourself that, child." An hour later, Michaela stood in front of her building, waiting nervously. She'd expected Ethan to arrive in some flashy sports car, but was surprised when a modest black sedan pulled up. Even more surprising was seeing Ethan behind the wheel himself, rather than a chauffeur. He stepped out looking handsome but not overly formal in dark slacks and a blue button-down shirt that matched her dress almost perfectly. "You look beautiful," he said, his eyes warm with appreciation. "You clean up pretty well yourself," Michaela replied, trying to sound casual despite the flutter in her chest. "No Ferrari tonight?" Ethan chuckled. "I figured we'd both be more comfortable with something less attention-grabbing." He opened the passenger door for her, a simple gesture that nonetheless spoke of his upbringing. "So, where are we going?" Michaela asked as they drove. "I thought we'd try Giuseppe's," Ethan said. "It's a small Italian place in the village. Family-owned, incredible food, no paparazzi." "Sounds perfect," Michaela said, relieved he hadn't chosen some exclusive high-end restaurant where she'd feel out of place. Giuseppe's turned out to be exactly as Ethan described. A cozy, warm restaurant with checkered tablecloths and candles in wine bottles. The owner, a robust Italian man with a booming laugh, greeted Ethan like an old friend. "Ethan, it's been too long." He embraced Ethan, then turned to Michaela with a wide smile. "And who is this beautiful lady?" Giuseppe, this is Michaela, Ethan introduced. Michaela, this is Giuseppe, the best chef in New York, though don't tell my mother I said that. Charmed, my dear. Giuseppe took her hand. Any friend of Ethan's is family here. Come, I have your usual table. As they followed him to a quiet corner booth, Michaela whispered, You come here often? Since I was a kid, Ethan explained. My dad used to bring me here after we spent Saturdays working in the shop. It was our tradition. The revelation surprised her. Somehow she hadn't imagined the Reynolds family dining in modest neighborhood restaurants. Once seated, with wine poured and bread on the table, the initial awkwardness between them began to fade. Conversation flowed more easily than Michaela had expected, touching on everything from favorite books to childhood memories. So, how did Reynolds Auto become a luxury dealership? Michaela asked, genuinely curious. You said your father started it as a regular repair shop. A shadow crossed Ethan's face. That's a complicated story. The short version is that Dad saw an opportunity to expand about 15 years ago. A luxury dealership in Queens went bankrupt, and he bought their inventory at auction. Turned out he had a knack for the high-end market. But that's not the whole story, Michaela guessed, reading his expression. Ethan sighed. No. The success changed the business. We moved to Manhattan, opened the showroom, started catering to celebrities and executives. The original shop in Queens got converted to a luxury service center. You don't sound happy about it. I have mixed feelings, Ethan admitted. The expansion made us wealthy beyond anything we'd imagined. Put me through the best schools, gave us security. But sometimes I think Dad lost something in the process. That connection to regular customers, the satisfaction of fixing cars with his own hands. Michaela nodded, understanding. Is that why you still work on cars yourself, to keep that connection? Exactly. Ethan looked impressed by her insight. After Dad died, I found myself spending more time in meetings than in the shop. One day I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd actually worked on an engine, so I started blocking off time. Just a few hours a week at first, then more. Does your board know? They know and they hate it, Ethan laughed. Alexander Whitman, our lead investor, calls it my blue-collar fantasy. Says I'm wasting time that could be spent on real work. That's the man I met at your event, Michaela recalled. Tall, always looks like he's smelling something bad. That's him, Ethan confirmed with another laugh. He and my father never got along, but he owns enough shares to maintain a board seat. He's been pushing hard for more expansion, more luxury focus. A server arrived with their entrees, handmade pasta for Michaela and veal parmesan for Ethan. The conversation paused as they savored the first bites. This is amazing, Michaela declared. I see why you keep coming back. Wait until dessert, Ethan promised. Giuseppe's tiramisu will change your life. As they ate, Ethan asked about her baking, showing genuine interest in her techniques and favorite recipes. Michaela found herself sharing dreams she rarely voiced aloud. I've always wanted my own little bakery, she confessed. Nothing fancy, just a neighborhood place where people could get quality baked goods at reasonable prices. My dad used to say that everyone deserves something sweet in their life, no matter their budget. He sounds like a wise man, Ethan said. What's stopping you from pursuing that dream? Michaela gave him a look. Reality? Money? Grandma's medical bills? Fair enough, Ethan acknowledged. But dreams have a way of finding paths to reality when you don't give up on them. Is that how Reynolds Auto became what it is today? Your father didn't give up on his dream. A flicker of something, regret perhaps, crossed Ethan's features. In a way. Though sometimes I wonder if the dream changed somewhere along the way. Before Michaela could pursue that thought, Giuseppe appeared with dessert, 2 portions of tiramisu that looked as heavenly as Ethan had promised. On the house, Giuseppe insisted when Ethan tried to protest. For you and your beautiful date. After the first bite, Michaela closed her eyes in bliss. Okay, you were right. Life-changing. Ethan watched her with a soft smile. I'm glad you like it. Something in his gaze made her heart skip. For a moment, the rest of the restaurant seemed to fade away, leaving just the two of them in a bubble of warmth and connection. The spell broke when Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, then silenced it. "Work?" Michaela asked. "Nothing that can't wait," he assured her, but she noticed the tension that had crept into his shoulders. As they finished dessert and Ethan paid the bill, refusing Michaela's offer to split it, his phone buzzed twice more. Each time he ignored it, but his expression grew increasingly troubled. Outside, the night air was cool and pleasant. Instead of heading straight for the car, Ethan suggested a walk through the nearby park. Michaela agreed, enjoying the chance to extend their evening. "I had a lovely time," she said as they strolled along the lamplit path. "So did I," Ethan replied, tentatively taking her hand. When she didn't pull away, his smile brightened. "I'd like to do this again, if you're willing." "I think I'd like that," Michaela admitted. They walked in comfortable silence for a moment before Ethan spoke again, his tone more serious. "Michaela, there's something I need to tell you." The shift in his voice made her tense. "What is it?" Before he could answer, his phone rang again. This time he checked the screen and sighed. "I'm sorry, I have to take this. It's my assistant, and she wouldn't call this late unless it was important." Stepping a few paces away, Ethan answered the call. Though Michaela couldn't hear the details, she could see the conversation wasn't pleasant. Ethan's posture stiffened, his free hand clenching into a fist, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. When he returned, his expression was grim. "I'm so sorry, but I need to go to the office. There's an emergency board meeting being called for tomorrow morning, and I need to prepare." "On a Saturday night?" Michaela asked, surprised. "Alexander's doing," Ethan explained, frustration evident. "He's making a power play." "Go," Michaela urged. "I understand. Let me drive you home first." "No need," she cut him off. "We're closer to the subway from here, and I'm a New Yorker, remember? I can find my way home." Ethan looked torn. "I hate ending our evening like this." "It's okay," Michaela assured him, though disappointment crept in at the abrupt conclusion to their date. "Business comes first, I get it." "No," Ethan said firmly, taking both her hands. "You come first. The business is important, but what's happening between us?" He hesitated, searching for words. "It matters more." The intensity in his eyes made Michaela's breath catch. Slowly he leaned in, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. Instead, she closed the distance between them. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, but filled with promise. When they parted, Michaela felt slightly dazed. "I've wanted to do that since you walked into the shop," Ethan confessed, his voice low. "Even when I was wearing my work uniform and yelling about my car," Michaela teased. "Especially then," he grinned. "You were magnificent." His phone buzzed yet again, breaking the moment. "Go," Michaela said, stepping back, "before they send a search party." "I'll call you tomorrow," Ethan promised. "And I still need to tell you something important." "It can wait," she assured him. Curious but not wanting to add to his stress, after another quick kiss they parted ways, Ethan heading to his car, Michaela to the subway station. As she watched him go, a mix of emotions swirled through her. The evening had been perfect until that phone call. Was this a glimpse of what dating Ethan Reynolds would be like? Interrupted moments, business emergencies, competing for attention. With board meetings and investors, yet the memory of his kiss, the sincerity in his eyes when he said she came first, those felt real in a way she couldn't dismiss. The next morning, Michaela was startled awake by urgent knocking at her apartment door. Bleary-eyed, she checked the time, 7:30 a.m. on a Sunday. "Who is it?" she called, throwing on a robe. "Mrs. Rivera from next door," came the reply. "Michaela, you need to see this." Opening the door, Michaela found her elderly neighbor looking agitated, clutching a stack of papers. "What's wrong?" Michaela asked, concerned. "These were slipped under everyone's doors this morning," Mrs. Rivera explained, handing over a glossy flyer. Michaela's blood ran cold as she read the headline. "Community Notice. Proposed development for East Harlem revitalization." Below was an artist's rendering of a massive glass and steel building, a car dealership, where their apartment complex currently stood. The Reynolds Auto logo was prominently displayed. "They want to tear down our homes," Mrs. Rivera said, her voice trembling. "For luxury cars," Michaela couldn't breathe. The flyer detailed a proposal to revitalize their block by replacing the existing outdated structures with a state-of-the-art automotive experience center. Residents would receive fair compensation and relocation assistance. At the bottom was a notice for a community meeting that evening to discuss the proposal. The contact listed was Alexander Whitman, Chief Investment Officer, Reynolds Auto Group. "I need to make some calls," Michaela said, her mind racing. "Don't worry, Mrs. Rivera, this isn't happening." After her neighbor left, Michaela tried calling Ethan. No answer. She sent a text. "We need to talk. Now." As she waited for a response, Rose emerged from her bedroom, awakened by the commotion. "What's all the fuss about?" she asked, then frowned at Michaela's expression. "What's wrong, child?" Wordlessly, Michaela handed her the flyer. Rose read it slowly, her face darkening. "That boy knew about this," she said finally. "Had to." "No." Michaela shook her head, though doubt gnawed at her. "He would have told me." "Would he?" Rose challenged. "When did he know you lived here? Before, or after he started working on your car?" The question hit Michaela like a physical blow. Had everything, the car repairs, the kindness, even last night's dinner, been part of a calculated plan? A way to soften her up before his company displaced her family and neighbors. "He said he needed to tell me something important," Michaela remembered. "Last night, before he got called away." "Convenient timing," Rose remarked dryly. Michaela's phone remained silent. No call, no text. The silence felt damning. By noon, with still no word from Ethan, Michaela made a decision. "I'm going to his office." "On a Sunday?" Rose questioned. "He mentioned an emergency board meeting today. He'll be there." Rose nodded approvingly. "Good. Look him in the eye when you ask if he knew. You'll see the truth." The Reynolds Auto corporate headquarters occupied the top floors of a sleek midtown tower. Michaela felt out of place in her jeans and sweater as she approached the security desk in the marble lobby. "I'm here to see Ethan Reynolds," she told the guard. "Do you have an appointment?" he asked, looking skeptical. "No, but he'll want to see me. Tell him Michaela James is here." The guard made a call, spoke briefly, then nodded. 14th floor. Someone will meet you at the elevator." Upstairs, Michaela was greeted by a young woman in a tailored suit. "Ms. James, I'm Jessica, Mr. Reynolds' assistant. He's in a meeting right now, but—" "I'll wait," Michaela said firmly. Jessica led her to a luxurious waiting area with views of the city skyline. "Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water?" "No, thank you." Michaela remained standing, too agitated to sit. "How long will the meeting last?" "Hard to say," Jessica admitted. "It's been contentious." Before Michaela could ask more, raised voices became audible from behind closed. "Doors down the hall. This is a mistake, Ethan," a man shouted. "Alexander Whitman," Michaela guessed. "You're throwing away a golden opportunity." "My decision is final," Ethan's voice responded, equally loud. "Now, if there's no other business—" The doors burst open, and a group of men in expensive suits stormed out, Alexander in the lead. He stopped short when he saw Michaela. "Well, well," he said, recognition dawning. "If it isn't the baker from East Harlem, come to thank us for the generous relocation package?" "Alexander," Ethan's voice cut through the tension as he appeared in the doorway. His tie was loosened, his hair disheveled as if he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. He froze when he saw Michaela. "You knew," she said, her voice barely controlled. "You knew they were planning to demolish my home." Ethan's face fell. "Michaela, I can explain." "Explain what?" she demanded, holding up the flyer. "How long have you known about this?" "Oh, he's known for months," Alexander interjected with a smirk. "The East Harlem expansion has been in development since last year. Prime location, easy acquisition of those run-down buildings." "That's enough, Alexander," Ethan snapped. "Is it true?" Michaela asked, her eyes locked on Ethan's. "Have you known all this time?" The guilt in his expression was answer enough. "I only learned your specific address the day we drove to your apartment," Ethan said quickly. "When I realized you lived in the target zone, Target zone?" Michaela repeated, disgust in her voice. "Is that what my home is to you? A target?" "No, that's not what I meant," Ethan protested. "I was trying to stop it. That's what this meeting—" Was about, Alexander laughed coldly. Yes, our CEO has suddenly developed a conscience. After months of approving preliminary studies and assessments, he now wants to cancel the entire project. I wonder what changed his mind. He looked pointedly at Michaela. You were going to tell me last night, Michaela realized. Before you got called away? Yes, Ethan confirmed. I wanted you to hear it from me, to know I was fighting against it. But you've known for months, Michaela said, the betrayal cutting deep. All those times you were working on my car, talking to me about my neighborhood, my life. You knew your company was planning to destroy it all. It wasn't like that, Ethan insisted, taking a step toward her. The expansion plans were just proposals. I never thought they'd get this far. When I realized where you lived, I started pushing back harder. How noble, Alexander drawled. Sacrificing a multi-million-dollar opportunity for a pretty face. This isn't about Michaela, Ethan rounded on him. It's about what kind of company we want to be. My father built Reynolds Auto to serve communities, not destroy them. Your father understood business, Alexander countered. He knew when to be sentimental and when to be practical. You've forgotten that lesson. Get out, Ethan ordered, his voice dangerously quiet. All of you. The meeting is over. The board members filed out, Alexander pausing to add, This isn't over, Ethan. The board will vote on this proposal with or without your support. When they were alone, save for Jessica hovering uncertainly by her desk, Ethan turned back to Michaela. I'm so sorry, he said, his voice raw. I should have told you sooner. Yes, you should have, Michaela agreed, fighting back tears. Instead, you let me believe in you, trust you. My feelings for you are real, Ethan insisted. That has nothing to do with the expansion plans, doesn't it? Michaela challenged. How convenient that you started taking a personal interest in my car, right around the time your company was eyeing my neighborhood. That's not fair, Ethan said, hurt flashing in his eyes. I didn't know where you lived when you first came in. I helped with your car because I could see how much it meant to you, how worried you were about the cost. And when you found out where I lived, Michaela pressed. What then? Were the dinner, the kindness to my grandmother, the kiss, were those all part of some strategy to soften the blow? No. Ethan looked genuinely anguished. I've been fighting this proposal for weeks. I thought I could stop it before you ever had to know. So you decided to keep me in the dark, make that decision for me? Michaela's anger surged. Those flyers went to everyone in my building, Ethan. My neighbors are terrified they're going to lose their homes. Homes they've lived in for decades. The flyers weren't supposed to go out, Ethan explained, running a hand through his hair. Alexander jumped the gun, trying to force my hand. Well, it worked, Michaela said bitterly. Now everyone knows, including me. Michaela, please. Ethan reached for her hands, but she stepped back. Let me fix this. How? You said yourself the board can vote without your support. I'm still CEO, Ethan said, determination hardening his features. I have options, ways to block this, at least temporarily. And then what? Michaela challenged. Another development proposal next year or the year after? As long as Reynolds Auto sees my neighborhood as a target zone, we'll never be safe. The truth of her words hung heavy between them. This wasn't just about one proposal or one board vote. It was about fundamentally different worlds colliding. I need to go, Michaela said finally. There's a community meeting tonight. My neighbors need to know what they're up against. I'll come with you, Ethan offered. No, Michaela shook her head. That would only make things worse. They need to hear from someone they trust, not the CEO of the company trying to evict them. The hurt in Ethan's eyes was palpable, but he nodded. I understand. As Michaela turned to leave, he called after her. This isn't over, Michaela, not the fight against the expansion and not us. She paused at the elevator. Last night you said I came first, before the business. Did you mean that? With all my heart, Ethan replied without hesitation. Then prove it, Michaela said as the elevator doors opened. Not with words, with actions. The meeting at the community center that evening was packed and emotional. Neighbors who had lived side by side for years gathered to voice their fears and anger. Michaela, knowing more than most about the situation, found herself thrust into the role of unofficial spokesperson. They can't just force us out, can they? Mrs. Rivera asked, clutching her husband's hand. Not without a fight, Michaela assured her. We have rights as tenants and homeowners. An elderly man stood up. My wife and I have lived in our apartment for 40 years. Where would we go? We can't afford today's rents. Nobody's going anywhere, Michaela said firmly. We're going to organize, get legal help, and fight this together. As the meeting continued, a commotion at the back of the room drew everyone's attention. Alexander Whitman entered, flanked by two men in suits. Good evening, he greeted smoothly. I'm Alexander Whitman, Chief Investment Officer for Reynolds Auto Group. I understand there are concerns about our proposed development. Concerns? A man shouted. You're trying to kick us out of our homes. Alexander raised his hands placatingly. I assure you no one is being kicked out. We're offering generous compensation packages, well above market value, plus relocation. Assistance. We don't want to relocate, Mrs. Rivera countered. We want to stay in our homes. Progress requires change, Alexander said with practiced sympathy. This development will bring jobs, improve property values, revitalize. We don't need revitalizing, Michaela interrupted, stepping forward. Our community is already vibrant and valuable, just not in ways you measure on a balance sheet. Alexander's smile tightened. Ms. James, isn't it? I understand your personal connection to our CEO might color your perspective. Leave her out of this, a new voice commanded from the doorway. Ethan strode in, dressed not in his usual business attire but in jeans and a simple shirt, closer to the mechanic Michaela had first met than the CEO she'd discovered. The room fell silent as he walked to the front, nodding respectfully to Michaela, before addressing the crowd. My name is Ethan Reynolds, he began, his voice steady. I'm the CEO of Reynolds Auto Group, and I want to make something absolutely clear. This development proposal does not have my support. It never has. Alexander stepped forward, alarm on his face. Ethan, we should discuss this privately. No. More private discussions, Ethan cut him off. No more boardroom debates while people's lives hang in the balance. He turned back to the community. The flyers you received were premature and unauthorized. No decisions have been made, and no homes will be taken. Relief rippled through the room, but Michaela remained cautious. What about your board, mister? Whitman said they could vote without your support. They can try, Ethan acknowledged. But what Mr. Whitman failed to mention is that while I only own 40% of Reynolds Auto Group, I control the land beneath our current headquarters, land my father purchased outright decades ago. Alexander's face paled. What are you saying? I'm saying, Ethan continued, his eyes locked with Michaela's, that if the board pursues this East Harlem development against my wishes, I will terminate our headquarters lease and sell that land. To the highest bidder. Reynolds Auto would be forced to relocate its entire corporate operation at enormous expense. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Alexander looked stunned. You wouldn't, he challenged. That building is your father's legacy. No, Ethan corrected him. My father's legacy is how he treated people, his integrity, his commitment to community, something I've been in danger of forgetting until recently. He glanced at Michaela, gratitude in his eyes. Alexander stormed out, his associates hurrying after him. As the room erupted in relieved conversation, Ethan approached Michaela. You asked for actions, not words, he said quietly. Is this a start? Before she could answer, Rose appeared at her side. Young man, she addressed Ethan, you just made a powerful enemy to protect people you don't even know. Why? Because it's the right thing to do, Ethan replied simply, and because some things matter more than business. Rose studied him for a moment, then nodded approvingly. Good answer. As the meeting dispersed, with neighbors stopping to thank Ethan for his support, Michaela remained silent, processing everything she'd witnessed. Outside, as the summer evening settled over the neighborhood, Ethan finally got a moment alone with her. I meant what I said in there, he told her. The proposal is dead, I'll make sure of it. At what cost to you? Michaela asked, genuinely concerned. Alexander didn't look like the type to forgive and forget. Ethan shrugged. He'll try to oust. Me as CEO, probably. Might succeed eventually. But I've realized something important. I don't need Reynolds Auto to be a luxury brand. I don't need the Manhattan showroom or the celebrity clients. What do you need? Michaela asked softly. To get back to what my father started, serving real people, fixing cars that matter to them. He took her hand cautiously. And I need you to know that what's between us has nothing to do with business decisions or expansion plans. It's just about you and me. Michaela wanted to believe him. The way he'd stood up to Alexander, risked his position for her community, those weren't the actions of someone playing games. I need time, she said honestly. This is all happening so fast. I understand, Ethan nodded, though disappointment flickered in his eyes. Take all the time you need. As he turned to leave, Michaela caught his arm. But I'm not saying no. I'm just saying, not yet. Hope returned to his face. I can work with not yet. The following weeks brought significant changes to Reynolds Auto Group. True to his word, Ethan formally withdrew the East Harlem expansion proposal. Alexander and his allies on the board retaliated by freezing funds for other projects, creating a corporate stalemate. Meanwhile, Michaela accepted the offer to cater Reynolds Auto events, though she insisted on a proper contract with fair terms. The exposure led to other catering opportunities, allowing her to leave the medical clinic and focus solely on baking. She and Ethan maintained a cautious friendship, their romantic connection on hold while she processed everything that had happened. He respected her need for space, though his feelings remained obvious in every interaction. One rainy afternoon, about a month after the community meeting, Michaela was delivering pastries to Reynolds Auto when she overheard an argument in Ethan's office. The shareholders are getting restless, Alexander was saying. Stock is down 12% since you cancelled the East Harlem project. Find another location, Ethan replied calmly, one that doesn't displace an entire community. There are 10 comparable sites at comparable prices, Alexander insisted. Face it, Ethan, your father would have made this deal. He understood business requires tough choices. My father also understood that some lines shouldn't be crossed, Ethan countered. Now, if there's nothing else, Alexander stormed out, nearly colliding with Michaela in the hallway. He gave her a cold look. Enjoying your influence over the CEO, Ms. James? It won't last. The board votes next week on my motion to remove him. After he left, Michaela entered Ethan's office. Is that true? They're trying to fire you? Ethan looked up from his desk, his smile genuine despite the dark circles under his eyes. It's a possibility. Alexander's been gathering support. Because of the East Harlem project? Because of me? No, Ethan shook his head firmly. This has been coming for years. My vision for the company doesn't align with theirs anymore. They want constant expansion, more luxury focus. I want something different. What do you want? Michaela asked, setting down her delivery and taking a seat across from him. Ethan was quiet for a moment. I've been thinking about that a lot lately, about what would make me proud, what would honor my father's real legacy. He met her eyes. I want to go back, to our roots, open a shop that serves everyone, not just the wealthy, focus on quality service, fair prices, building community. Can you do that with Reynolds Auto as it is now? Probably not, Ethan admitted, which is why I've been working on a contingency plan. He turned his computer monitor so she could see what he'd been working on, plans for a new, smaller business. Reynolds Automotive, the header read, with a logo reminiscent of the original shop his father had opened. You're starting over, Michaela realized. If I have to, Ethan nodded. I've set aside enough personal capital to launch a few locations, starting in Queens where Dad began. Nothing fancy, just honest work at fair prices. What about the Reynolds? Auto name, the luxury brand? If the board ousts me, they can have it, Ethan said with surprising serenity. Names are just names. What matters is what you do, how you treat people. Michaela studied him, seeing not the billionaire CEO or even the grease-stained mechanic, but simply Ethan, a man trying to honor his values while finding his own path. I think your father would be proud, she said softly. I hope so, Ethan replied, vulnerability in his voice. Sometimes I feel like I lost my way after he died, got caught up in what Alexander and the board wanted instead of what Dad really stood for. On impulse, Michaela reached across the desk and took his hand. It's never too late to find your way back. Their eyes met, and the connection between them, temporarily dampened by circumstances, flared back to life. Ethan turned his palm up, interlacing their fingers. "I've missed you," he said simply. "I've missed you too," Michaela admitted. "I just needed to be sure, about you, about us, about what it all means." "And are you?" "Sure, I mean." Michaela considered the question. The past month had given her time to reflect, to see Ethan not just as the man who'd fixed her car or the billionaire who'd nearly displaced her community, but as someone more complex. Flawed, yes, but also principled when it mattered most. "I'm pretty getting there," she said honestly. "Seeing you stand up for what's right even at personal cost, it means a lot." "Enough for a second date?" Ethan asked, hope lighting his features. Michaela smiled. "I think I could manage that." The board meeting the following week was as contentious as expected. Alexander presented his motion to remove Ethan as CEO, citing declining stock prices and erratic decision-making. Michaela waited anxiously in a coffee shop across from Reynolds, auto headquarters. She'd offered to come with Ethan, but he'd insisted this was something he needed to face alone. 3 hours later, her phone buzzed with a text. "It's done. Meet me at Giuseppe's when you can." Her heart racing, Michaela hurried to the restaurant. She found Ethan already there, sitting at their usual table, a glass of wine untouched before him. His expression was unreadable. "What happened?" she asked, sliding into the seat across from him. Ethan looked up, a small smile forming. "They voted. And I'm no longer CEO of Reynolds Auto Group." Michaela's heart sank. "Ethan, I'm so sorry." To her surprise, he reached across the table and took her hand, his smile widening. "Don't be. It's the most liberating feeling I've had in years. But your company, your father's legacy, my father's legacy isn't a name on a building," Ethan said with conviction. "It's what he taught me about integrity, about putting people first." He squeezed her hand. "And thanks to you, I remembered that before it was too late." "What will you do now?" Michaela asked, concerned despite his apparent calm. "Exactly what I planned," Ethan replied. "Reynolds Automotive opens its first location in Queens next month. I've already hired staff, secured inventory." "Just like that, you're starting over?" "With improvements," Ethan nodded. "Fair pricing, quality service, and—" He hesitated, looking slightly nervous. "A small cafe attached to the waiting area." "A cafe?" Michaela repeated, surprised. "People waiting for their cars need something to eat, don't they?" Ethan shrugged, though his casual tone didn't quite mask his eagerness. "I happen to know a fantastic baker who might be interested in a partnership, someone who's always dreamed of her own place." The implication dawned on Michaela. "You want me to run a bakery in your new shop?" "Our new shop," Ethan corrected. "If you're interested, equal partners, your name on the door alongside mine." Michaela stared at him, speechless. It was everything she'd dreamed of. Her own bakery, the chance to create something meaningful, offered up just when she least expected. "Why?" she managed finally. "Why would you share your new business with me?" Ethan's expression softened. "Because I love you, Michaela James. Because you helped me find my way back to what matters. And because I think we could build something amazing, together, in business and in life." The declaration of love hung between them, honest and unexpected. Michaela felt tears spring to her eyes. "That's a lot to process," she whispered. "I know," Ethan acknowledged. "And I'm not asking for an answer right now. Just think about it. Visit the space, see if it feels right." Michaela nodded, her mind spinning with possibilities. "I will." As they shared a meal and talked about potential plans for the new venture, Michaela realized something had fundamentally shifted. The barriers between their worlds, barriers of wealth, privilege, and circumstance, hadn't disappeared, but they'd become less imposing, less defining. In losing his company, Ethan had found his purpose, and in finding him, Michaela was discovering new possibilities for her own dreams. The future remained uncertain, filled with challenges neither of them could foresee. But for the first time since her father died, Michaela felt ready to take a leap of faith, with her career and perhaps with her heart. 1 month later, Michaela stood in the empty space that would soon become her bakery. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, illuminating the freshly painted walls and new equipment waiting to be arranged. Adjacent to the main auto shop, the cafe area was designed to be both functional and welcoming, with comfortable seating and a clear view of the mechanics at work. "What do you think?" Ethan asked, watching her reaction carefully. "We can change anything that doesn't work for you." Michaela ran her fingers along the smooth countertop, imagining display cases filled with her creations. "It's perfect," she said softly. "Better than I ever dreamed." The past month had been a whirlwind. After Ethan's removal as CEO of Reynolds Auto Group, he'd thrown himself into launching Reynolds Automotive with an energy that surprised even him. The Queens location, the first of what he hoped would be several neighborhood shops, was nearly ready for its grand opening, scheduled for the following weekend. For Michaela, the decision to join him as a partner hadn't been easy. She'd spent countless hours discussing it with Grandma Rose, weighing the risks and rewards, questioning her own readiness to take such a leap. "You're overthinking," Rose had told her after one particularly long debate session. "The boy loves you, you love him. The business is just a bonus." "I don't know if I love him," Michaela had protested weakly. Rose had merely raised an eyebrow. "Then you're not as smart as I thought." Now standing in what would soon be Michaela's place, the name they'd chosen for the bakery, she couldn't deny the truth of her grandmother's words. Her feelings for Ethan had grown steadily, deepening, as she watched him rebuild his life and business around values they both shared. "I still can't believe we're doing this," Michaela admitted, turning to face him. "A month ago, you were running a luxury car empire." "And hating every minute of it," Ethan reminded her. He gestured around the shop, where workers were installing equipment and setting up service bays. "This feels real, like coming home." "Your father would be proud," Michaela said, not for the first time. "I think so," Ethan agreed. "And I think he would have loved you." The comment warmed her, as it always did. "Tell me about him again. What was he like when you were growing up?" Ethan's face softened with memories as they settled onto a bench by the window. "He was tough but fair, worked harder than anyone I've ever known, came to this country with nothing but his skills as a mechanic and built everything through sheer determination." "Like someone else I know," Michaela observed, nudging him gently. Ethan shook his head. "Dad was the real deal. I just inherited his stubbornness and his talent with cars and his integrity when it counted most." "Maybe," Ethan conceded, "but I nearly lost my way. If your car hadn't broken down that day, if you hadn't walked into the shop." He trailed off, the implication clear. "Speaking of my car," Michaela said, changing the subject before emotion. "Overwhelmed them both. It's running better than ever thanks to you." "Good old reliable Chevy," Ethan smiled. "Built to last just like your father knew." Their conversation was interrupted by Tony, the tow truck driver who'd brought Michaela's car to Reynolds Auto that first day and who had followed Ethan to the new venture. "Boss, the parts delivery is here, but they're short the inventory we ordered," he reported. "I'll handle it," Ethan assured him, standing up. "Excuse me a minute?" As Ethan went to address the problem, Michaela wandered through the space, envisioning how it would look when completed. Unlike the cold, sterile environment of the Manhattan showroom, this shop felt warm and inviting. Regular people would come here, not just the wealthy elite. It would be a place where cars were fixed, not just displayed, where customers became friends, not just transactions. Her phone buzzed with a text from Rose. "How's it going? Love nest all set up?" Michaela chuckled at her grandmother's teasing. Despite her initial reservations, Rose had become Ethan's biggest supporter, especially after he'd helped arrange for a specialist to review her medical care, resulting in a new treatment plan that had improved her condition significantly. "Just checking out the bakery space," Michaela replied. "It's perfect. How are you feeling today?" "Better than I have in years," came the quick response. "When are you bringing that man of yours for dinner? I made his favorite pie." The easy way. Rose referred to Ethan as her man, made Michaela smile. In many ways it felt right, even though they hadn't officially defined their relationship. Between getting the new business ready and Michaela's catering commitments, they'd had little time for their personal lives. Their connection had grown through shared work and purpose rather than traditional dating. "Tomorrow night," she texted. Don't go overboard, Grandma. 3 dots appeared, then, too late, already made enough food for an army. Michaela was still smiling at her phone when Ethan returned, looking slightly harried but satisfied. Crisis averted. The correct parts will be here tomorrow. Everything okay? She asked, noting the tension in his shoulders. Just growing pains. He assured her. Nothing we can't handle. But something in his tone made her suspicious. Ethan, what aren't you telling me? He sighed, running a hand through his hair, a gesture she now recognized as a sign of stress. Alexander's playing hardball. He's pressuring suppliers not to work with us, telling them they'll lose Reynolds Auto's business if they sell to me. Can he do that? Michaela asked, outraged. Legally? It's a gray area. Practically, he's having some success. Ethan shrugged, trying to appear nonchalant. We'll find alternate suppliers. It just makes everything more complicated. Why didn't you tell me? Because you have enough to worry about with the bakery setup, Ethan said, and because I didn't want to burden you with my problems. Our problems, Michaela corrected him firmly. We're partners, remember? In this business, at least. Something flickered in Ethan's eyes at her qualification. Right, business partners. An awkward silence fell between them, heavy with unspoken feelings. Michaela knew she was holding back, keeping part of herself guarded despite everything they'd been through. And she knew Ethan sensed it, respected it, but was perhaps growing weary of waiting. The moment was broken by Michaela's phone ringing, a catering client with a last-minute order change. By the time she finished the call, Ethan had moved on to helping the workers arrange equipment in the service bays. The week leading up to the grand opening was chaotic in the best possible way. Michaela spent every spare moment preparing for the bakery launch, testing recipes, organizing supplies, and training the 2 assistants they'd hired to help with the cafe. Ethan was equally busy getting the automotive side ready, from stocking inventory to finalizing service protocols. Through it all, they worked side by side, their professional compatibility undeniable. They anticipated each other's needs, complemented each other's strengths, and navigated challenges with surprising harmony. Yet the personal aspect of their relationship remained in a holding pattern, meaningful glances and brief touches that never quite developed into more, meaningful conversations that stopped just short of declarations. The night before the opening, they worked late, putting final touches on both spaces. As midnight approached, they found themselves alone in the shop, sharing a pizza on the floor of what would soon be Michaela's bakery. Nervous about tomorrow? Ethan asked, passing her a soda. Terrified, Michaela admitted with a laugh. But the good kind of terrified, you know, like when you're about to do something amazing but aren't sure you can pull it off. I know exactly. What you mean? Ethan nodded. But you're going to be incredible. People will line up around the block once they taste your cinnamon rolls. What about you? Michaela asked. Nervous about the shop opening? Ethan considered the question. Not about the technical aspects. We've got good people, quality equipment, but, he hesitated, I worry about living up to my father's legacy, about whether I'm doing the right thing by starting over this way. You are, Michaela said with conviction. This place feels right in a way that the Manhattan showroom never did, at least not to me. To me either, Ethan confessed. Even before I met you, I felt out of place there, like I was playing a role rather than living my life. And now, he said, his gaze steady on hers, I feel like myself again. Thanks largely to you. The sincerity in his voice made Michaela's heart skip. I didn't do anything special. You did, Ethan insisted. You saw through the CEO to the mechanic underneath. You held me accountable when I needed it. You reminded to me what matters. Michaela felt a blush rising to her cheeks. Well, you're not so bad yourself. Not many billionaires would walk away from everything to start over in Queens. Former billionaire, Ethan corrected with a grin. These days, I'm just a small business owner trying to make ends meet. They both knew that wasn't entirely true. While Ethan had lost control of Reynolds Auto Group, his personal finances remained substantial. He'd invested heavily in the new venture, but had done so in a way that gave Michaela equal partnership without requiring capital she didn't have. It was a gesture of faith that still humbled her. "About that," Michaela said, setting down her pizza slice. "I've been meaning to talk to you about the partnership agreement." Concern flashed across Ethan's face. "Is something wrong with it?" "No, it's just—" Michaela took a deep breath. "It's too generous, Ethan. You've put in all the money, done most of the work, and yet you're giving me half ownership. It doesn't feel right." "It feels exactly right to me," Ethan said firmly. "Your talents, your vision for the bakery, they're just as valuable as my investment. More so, really. Money is just money. What you bring can't be bought." "Still, no." Ethan cut her off gently. "This isn't charity, Michaela. It's recognition of your worth. As a baker, as a businesswoman, as a partner." The word partner hung between them, its dual meaning impossible to ignore. "Thank you," Michaela said softly, "for believing in me." "Always," Ethan replied, his voice equally soft. Their eyes met across. The remains of their makeshift dinner, and Michaela felt the familiar pull between them intensify. For weeks she'd held back, uncertain if her feelings were genuine or influenced by gratitude, by the whirlwind of changes in her life. But in that moment, with just the two of them in the quiet of their shared dream, clarity finally came. She loved him. Not because he'd fixed her car or offered her a business opportunity, but because of who he was, the man who stayed late to work on engines, who cared for her grandmother, who stood up against his own board to protect her community. The man who'd found the courage to start over rather than compromise his principles. Before she could find words for this realization, Ethan's phone rang, his lawyer calling despite the late hour. "I should take this," he apologized, standing up. "It might be about the supplier issues." As he stepped outside to take the call, Michaela began cleaning up their impromptu dinner. Her mind raced with the revelation of her feelings, wondering if tomorrow, after the grand opening, might be the right time to finally tell Ethan how she felt. When he returned, his expression was troubled. "That was James, my attorney. Alexander's filed a lawsuit claiming I stole proprietary information from Reynolds Auto to start this business." "What?" Michaela was stunned. "That's ridiculous. You built Reynolds Auto." "Technically, my father did," Ethan sighed. "And technically, everything I developed while CEO belongs to the company, not to me personally. But that's not fair. Fair doesn't always matter in business," Ethan said grimly. "Alexander's just trying to delay our opening, create problems. The lawsuit is baseless, but it'll take time and money to fight." "Can he stop us from opening tomorrow?" Michaela asked, suddenly fearful for everything they'd built. "No," Ethan assured her. "The judge denied the emergency injunction. We're clear to open while the case proceeds." Relief washed over her. "Then we'll deal with Alexander together, one step at a time." Ethan's expression softened. "Together. I like the sound of that." The grand opening of Reynolds Automotive and Michaela's place exceeded all their expectations. From the moment they unlocked the doors at 8 a.m., a steady stream of customers filled both the service bays and the cafe. Word had spread throughout the neighborhood, drawing both curious locals and loyal former customers who had followed Ethan from Manhattan. By noon, Michaela's display cases were nearly empty, and she and her assistants were baking frantically to restock. The small seating area was constantly full, with customers lingering over coffee and pastries while their cars were serviced. "We need more space already," Michaela laughed as she worked alongside Ethan, who had abandoned his office to help in the bakery during the rush. "Knew you'd be a hit," he said, awkwardly attempting to fill pastry shells under her direction. His hands, so skilled with engines, were endearingly clumsy with the delicate baking tasks. "Not bad for a mechanic," she teased, correcting his technique. "I have many hidden talents," he replied with a wink that made her blush. The afternoon brought an unexpected visitor, Giuseppe from the Italian restaurant, bearing a huge bouquet of flowers and a bottle of champagne. "For the grand opening," he announced, embracing first Ethan, then Michaela. "My two favorite customers, now business owners together. It is beautiful, no?" "It's something, all right," Michaela agreed, touched by the gesture. "You must come for dinner to celebrate," Giuseppe insisted. "Tonight, after you close, I will prepare something special." Before they could respond, the bell over the door chimed again. This time the visitor made Michaela's blood run cold. Alexander Whitman, immaculate, in an expensive suit that looked wildly out of place in the modest shop. "Quite the quaint operation you've got here," he remarked, looking around with barely concealed disdain. "Charming in a rustic way." Ethan stepped forward, positioning himself slightly in front of Michaela. "What do you want, Alexander?" "The lawsuit wasn't enough." "Just observing the competition," Alexander replied smoothly, "though I use that term loosely. Reynolds Auto Group opened a new luxury service center in Manhattan last week, completely booked for the next month." "Good for you," Ethan said evenly. "Now, if you'll excuse us, we have customers to serve." Alexander's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I also wanted to personally deliver this." He handed Ethan an envelope. "The board's counteroffer for settling the lawsuit. You cease using the Reynolds. Name in any capacity and we drop all charges." "That's my name," Ethan said, his voice dangerously quiet. "It's a brand that belongs to Reynolds Auto Group," Alexander corrected. "A brand you're diluting with this," he gestured vaguely, "neighborhood. Garage experiment." Michaela felt anger rising in her chest. "This experiment has served more customers today than your Manhattan showroom probably sees in a week." Alexander turned his cold gaze on her. "Ah, Ms. James, still playing the loyal defender. I wonder if your commitment will remain so strong. When the reality of competing with Reynolds Auto Group sets in, we have resources you can't imagine. We have something better," Michaela countered. "Heart, integrity, actual skills." A flash of genuine anger crossed Alexander's face before he controlled it. "Charming sentiment, but sentiment doesn't pay bills or fight legal battles." "Neither does intimidation," Ethan said firmly. "You've delivered your message. Now leave before I have you escorted out." Alexander straightened his already perfect tie. "Consider the offer, Ethan. You have until the end of the week." With a final, contemptuous glance around the shop, he departed. Giuseppe, who had witnessed the entire exchange, let out a low whistle. "That man has the evil eye. You want me to put a curse on him? My nonna taught me an old Sicilian one." Despite the tension, Michaela couldn't help laughing. "Thanks, Giuseppe, but I think we'll handle this the legal way." "Your loss," Giuseppe shrugged. "The curse is very effective, but my dinner offer stands. Tonight you come, yes?" "We'll be there," Ethan promised, though his eyes remained on the door where Alexander had exited. After Giuseppe left, Michaela touched Ethan's arm. "Are you okay?" "Fine," he said, though the tension in his jaw suggested otherwise. "Just tired of Alexander's games." "Will you consider his offer?" Michaela asked carefully. "About the name?" Ethan's expression hardened. "Never. Reynolds is my name, my father's name. I won't let them take that from me, too." The determination in his voice both impressed and worried her. She knew how much the name meant to him, but she also understood the resources Reynolds Auto Group could bring to bear in a legal fight. "Whatever you decide, I'm with you," she assured him, squeezing his hand. His fingers interlaced with hers, holding on as if drawing strength. "That means more than you know." The rest of the opening day passed in a blur of customers, repairs, and baking. By closing time, they were both exhausted but exhilarated. The shop had exceeded first-day projections for both service work and bakery sales. Word of mouth was already spreading, with several customers making appointments for the following week. "We did it," Michaela said as they locked up, too tired even to begin the thorough cleaning that would have to wait until morning. "We did," Ethan agreed, draping an arm around her shoulders. "Team Reynolds James for the win." "Reynolds James," Michaela repeated, liking the sound of it. "Has a nice ring to it." "It does, doesn't it?" Ethan said, something significant in his tone that Michaela was too exhausted to fully process. At Giuseppe's, they were given the best table despite their work clothes and obvious fatigue. The restaurant owner insisted on serving them himself, bringing course after course of his finest specialties and refusing to accept payment. "For family there is no bill," he declared, "only celebration." By the time dessert arrived, the famous tiramisu that had indeed changed Michaela's life on their first date, she was pleasantly full and more relaxed than she'd been in weeks. Across the table, Ethan looked similarly content, The stress of Alexander's visit temporarily forgotten. To new beginnings, he proposed, raising his wineglass. And old traditions, Michaela added, thinking of his father's legacy living on in the new shop. As they clinked glasses, their eyes met, and Michaela felt the familiar warmth spread through her. The realization she'd had the night before returned. With greater clarity, she loved this man. Not the billionaire CEO, not even the skilled mechanic, but the complex, determined, compassionate person who was both and neither. "Ethan," she began, gathering her courage, "there's something I've been wanting to tell you." Before she could continue, Giuseppe appeared with a small gift box. "For the lovely couple, a token of good fortune for your new venture." "That's very kind," Ethan said, accepting the box. "But we're not—" Details," Giuseppe waved away the correction. "Open, open." Inside the box was a small ceramic plaque painted with the words, "May your business prosper and your love endure." "It's beautiful," Michaela said, genuinely touched. "Thank you, Giuseppe. You hang in your new shop, yes?" "For good luck." Giuseppe beamed at them. "Now, I leave you to enjoy dessert. Young love needs privacy." After he bustled away, an awkward silence fell between them. Ethan turned the plaque over in his hands. "Giuseppe has always been a romantic." "It's sweet," Michaela said, "and thoughtful, but potentially awkward, given that we haven't actually defined what this is between us," Ethan pointed out, his tone carefully neutral. The opening was clear. Michaela took a deep breath. "Maybe it's time we did." Ethan looked up, hope and caution warring in his eyes. "I'm listening." "When we met, everything happened so fast," Michaela began. "My car breaking down, you helping me, us getting to know each other, then finding out who you really were. It was a whirlwind." "It was," Ethan agreed, watching her intently. "And then there was the whole Reynolds Auto expansion drama. You losing your position as CEO, starting the new business together, more whirlwind. It felt impossible to sort out. My feelings with so much happening around us." "I understand," Ethan said softly. "It's why I've tried to give you space, to not push for more than you were ready to give." "I know, and I appreciate that." Michaela reached across the table to take his hand. "But I think I'm done needing space. I think I'm ready to admit what I've probably known for a while now." "Which is?" Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper. "That I love you," Michaela said simply. "Not because you fixed my car or gave me a business opportunity or stood up to Alexander, but because of who you are, your heart, your integrity, your determination to do what's right even when it costs you." The joy that bloomed on Ethan's face was like sunrise after a long night. "Michaela," he breathed, squeezing her hand. "I've loved you since you walked into the shop that first day, covered in engine grease and talking about timing belts." Michaela laughed. "I was a mess that day." "You were magnificent," Ethan corrected. "Strong, determined, unwilling to be intimidated, even in a place where you felt out of your element." "And here we are," Michaela marveled. "Business partners and—" And now," Ethan prompted. "And now something more," she finished. "If that's what you want too." In answer, Ethan stood, pulling her gently to her feet. In the middle of Giuseppe's restaurant, with the owner watching approvingly from a distance, he kissed her. Not the hesitant, brief kiss they'd shared in the park, but a deep, confident kiss that spoke of certainty and promise. When they parted, breathless and smiling, applause erupted around them. The restaurant's other patrons, along with Giuseppe and his staff, were cheering. "Amore!" Giuseppe called out, raising his hands triumphantly. "This calls for champagne." Later that night, as Ethan walked Michaela to her apartment door, the future seemed both uncertain and full of possibility. The lawsuit from Reynolds Auto loomed, and Alexander's threats couldn't be dismissed lightly. The new business would face countless challenges in the months ahead, but something fundamental had changed. They would face those challenges together, not just as business partners, but as partners in every sense. "Stay for coffee," Michaela offered as they reached her door. "Grandma will want to hear about the opening day." "I'd like that," Ethan said, following her inside. Rose was waiting up, eager for details. As they shared stories of the day's success, Michaela noticed her grandmother's knowing smile each time she caught them holding hands or exchanging glances. "So," Rose said finally, her eyes twinkling, "anything else you two want to tell me? Besides, the business news?" Michaela looked at Ethan, who nodded slightly, giving her the lead. "Actually, Grandma, there is. Ethan and we're together now, officially." "Well, hallelujah," Rose exclaimed, throwing up her hands in mock exasperation. "Took you long enough. I was beginning to think I'd need to lock you two in a room together." "Your granddaughter needed time," Ethan explained, his arm slipping around Michaela's waist. "And she was worth waiting for." "Smart man," Rose approved. "Now, when are you moving in? This place is too small for all three of us, so I assume we'll be relocating to that fancy apartment of yours." "Grandma," Michaela protested, mortified. "We just started dating officially. Nobody's moving anywhere. Yet," Ethan added with a grin that earned him a playful swat from Michaela. Rose laughed, clearly delighted by their happiness. "Well, don't take too long figuring it out. At my age, I don't have forever to wait for great-grandchildren. And on that note," Michaela said, standing abruptly, "I think it's time for bed. Big day tomorrow with the shop." After Rose retired to her room, still chuckling at Michaela's embarrassment, Ethan pulled Michaela into his arms in the small living room. "Your grandmother is amazing," he said, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "She's something all right," Michaela agreed. "Sorry about the moving in and great-grandchildren talk." "Don't be," Ethan said. "I like that she thinks long-term for us, so do I." The simple statement, delivered without pressure or expectation, warmed Michaela's heart. "So do I," she admitted. They shared one more kiss before Ethan reluctantly prepared to leave. At the door, he paused. "Tomorrow's going to be another busy day at the shop." "I know," Michaela nodded. "I'm already planning what to bake. We sold out of everything today. And after work," Ethan continued, "I thought maybe we could have dinner at my place. Just the two of us, to celebrate." "The successful opening or us?" Michaela asked with a smile. "Both," Ethan replied. "Definitely both." As she watched him walk to his car, Michaela felt a contentment she hadn't experienced in years. The future held challenges, yes, but also promise. With Ethan beside her, both in business and in life, she felt ready to face whatever came next. Inside, she found Grandma Rose waiting in the hallway, her expression knowing. "That man loves you something fierce," she observed, "and you love him right back." "I do," Michaela acknowledged, no longer afraid of the admission. "Your daddy would approve," Rose said softly. "He always said you deserved someone who would see your value, not just your pretty face." "I think he would have liked Ethan," Michaela agreed, tears pricking her eyes at the thought of her father. "Oh, he'd have put him through his paces first," Rose chuckled. "Made sure he knew how to treat his little girl right. But in the end, yes, he'd have approved." The following morning, Michaela arrived at the shop early to prepare for their second day of business. To her surprise, Ethan was already there, working intently at a small table near the bakery counter. "You're here early," she commented, setting down her bags of ingredients. "Couldn't sleep," he admitted. "Too much on my mind." "The lawsuit?" Michaela guessed. "Partly." Ethan stood, revealing what he'd been working on. A small wooden box, intricately carved with designs of flowers and gears, an unusual but beautiful combination. "Did you make this?" Michaela asked, impressed. "Last night after I left your place?" Ethan nodded. "Another skill my father taught me. Said a man should be able to create beauty with his hands, not just fix broken things." "It's beautiful," Michaela said, running her fingers over the polished wood. "It's for you," Ethan said, pushing it gently toward her. "Open it." Inside, nestled on a bed of velvet, was a key, not a car key or a house key, but an old-fashioned, ornate key that looked more decorative than functional. "I don't understand," Michaela said, lifting it carefully. Ethan took a deep breath. "My father gave that to my mother when he opened his first shop. Said it was the key to their future together. When she died, she left it to me. Told me to give it to someone special when the time was right." The significance of the gesture wasn't lost on Michaela. "Ethan, I'm not proposing," he clarified quickly. "Not yet. That would be rushing things, even for us. But I wanted you to have this now as a promise, a symbol of what we're building together. The business, yes, but more importantly, a life. Tears welled in Michaela's eyes. It's the most meaningful gift anyone has ever given me. There's something else, Ethan said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small velvet pouch. This was my father's. He wore it every day in the shop. From the pouch, he produced a worn leather keychain with the original Reynolds Auto logo stamped into it. A simple design of a wrench and the letter R. I had it restored, Ethan explained. It reminded me of your father's keychain for the Chevy. I thought maybe we could use both of them together for the keys to our shop, a symbol of where we came from and where we're going. Michaela was speechless, overcome with emotion. That Ethan would think to honor both their fathers, to recognize the parallels in their stories, meant more than she could express. It's perfect, she finally managed, her voice thick with tears. Absolutely perfect. Their moment was interrupted by Tony arriving for his shift. Morning, boss, boss's lady, he greeted with a knowing grin. Just boss, Michaela corrected, though she couldn't stop smiling. Equal partners, remember? Right. Right? Tony nodded, winking at Ethan. Whatever you say, boss. As they prepared for the day's customers, Michaela found herself stealing glances at Ethan, the man who had entered her life disguised as a simple mechanic and had become so much more. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, with Alexander's lawsuit and the challenges of building a new business, but for the first time in years, she wasn't facing that road alone. The morning rush began, with customers lining up for both car service and baked goods. Michaela moved efficiently in her kitchen space, directing her assistants while greeting regulars by name. Through the connecting window, she could see Ethan in the service area. His sleeves rolled up as he explained a repair to an elderly customer who nodded gratefully. This was what it was all about, she realized. Not luxury showrooms or corporate boardrooms, but real connections with real people. The community her father had valued, the legacy Ethan's father had begun. Just before noon, the bell over the door chimed, and Michaela looked up to see Grandma Rose entering, supported by Mrs. Rivera. Grandma, what are you doing here? Michaela hurried around the counter to help her grandmother to a seat. Had to see this place in action, Rose declared. Mrs. Rivera needed her oil changed anyway, so we made a day of it. You should have called, Michaela scolded gently. I would have arranged transportation. I'm not an invalid, Rose huffed. Besides, I wanted to surprise you. Brought something for the shop. From her large purse, she produced a framed photograph. Michaela's father standing proudly beside his Chevy, the same car that had brought Michaela and Ethan together. Thought it should have a place of honor, Rose said. Where it all began, in a way. Ethan, who had spotted Rose and come over to greet her, examined the photo with reverence. It's perfect, he agreed. We'll hang it right beside the register where everyone can see it. As they found the perfect spot for the photograph, the bell chimed again. This time, the visitor made the entire shop fall silent. A tall, elegantly dressed woman in her 60s, her silver hair swept into a perfect chignon. Mother, Ethan said, clearly shocked. What are you doing here? Michaela froze. Ethan's mother. He'd mentioned she was still alive but lived abroad most of the year. They hadn't discussed meeting each other's families yet. Everything was still so new. Can't a mother visit her son's new business? Mrs. Reynolds asked, her voice cultured but warm as she surveyed the shop. Especially when she has to hear about it from friends rather than from her own child. I was going to call, Ethan said, looking slightly abashed as he moved to embrace her. It's been a whirlwind. So I see, his mother replied, her gaze falling on Michaela. And you must be the young woman I've heard so much about. From Giuseppe, not from my son, I might add. Michaela James. Michaela introduced herself, suddenly conscious of her flour-dusted apron and messy hair. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Reynolds. Eleanor, please, the woman insisted, taking Michaela's hand. Any woman who can get my son to follow his heart instead of the board's directives is someone I want to know better. Before Michaela could respond, Rose approached, extending her hand. Rose James, the grandmother. And I agree completely. These young people took their sweet time figuring things out. To Michaela's surprise, Eleanor laughed, a genuine, delighted sound. "I like you already," she told Rose. "Perhaps we can compare notes on how to manage these." "Too. I'd like that," Rose nodded approvingly. "Join me for coffee. I want to hear all about Ethan as a boy." "Grandma," Michaela protested weakly, but the two older women were already settling at a table, clearly ready to bond over embarrassing stories of their respective charges. "Well, that's terrifying," Ethan muttered, watching them with a mixture of amusement and dread. "Complete disaster," Michaela agreed, leaning against him. "They're going to be best friends within the hour." "And plotting our future within 2, Ethan added, slipping an arm around her waist. As if on cue, they heard Rose's voice. "So, Eleanor, how do you feel about great-grandchildren?" Michaela groaned, burying her face in Ethan's shoulder while he laughed. "Told you, disaster." But as she watched their grandmothers chatting animatedly, as customers flowed in and out of the shop, as Ethan's hand found hers and held on tight, Michaela knew that this so-called disaster was actually the beginning of something wonderful. The shop would face challenges. Their relationship would face challenges. Alexander's lawsuit still loomed, and the road ahead wasn't guaranteed to be smooth. But standing there in the business they'd built together, surrounded by people who mattered, family, both blood and chosen, Michaela felt something she hadn't experienced since her father died, a sense of home. Not a physical place, but a feeling of belonging, of being exactly where she was meant to be. 6 months later, Reynolds Automotive and Michaela's place had expanded to a second location in Brooklyn. The lawsuit with Reynolds Auto Group had been settled out of court, Ethan keeping his name for the business in exchange for certain territorial limitations. Alexander, finding himself outmaneuvered both legally and in the court of public opinion, had gradually backed off his vendetta. On a crisp autumn evening, Michaela closed the Queen's shop while Ethan finished with the day's last customer. Their routine was comfortable now. She'd go upstairs to the apartment they shared above the shop, start dinner, and he'd join her after locking up. Rose had her own apartment next door, insisting on her independence while still being close enough for daily visits. Eleanor split her time between her Manhattan penthouse and a guest room in their building, gradually forming a genuine friendship with Rose that sometimes left Ethan and Michaela feeling like teenagers under supervision. As Michaela prepared a simple pasta dinner, she heard Ethan's footsteps on the stairs. When he entered, he looked unusually nervous. "Everything okay?" she asked, setting down the wooden spoon she'd been using to stir the sauce. "Everything's perfect," Ethan assured her, coming to kiss her hello. "Just thinking about how much has changed in a year. For the better, I hope?" Michaela teased, though she already knew the answer. "Beyond my wildest dreams," Ethan confirmed. "The business is thriving, we have a second location, and most importantly," he pulled her close, "I wake up beside you every morning." "Smooth talker," Michaela accused, though she melted into his embrace. "I've been thinking," Ethan said, his voice turning serious. "About the future, about us." Michaela felt her heart beat faster. "What about us?" Ethan stepped back slightly, reaching into his pocket. He produced not a ring box, as Michaela half expected, but her father's old keychain, the one she'd kept in the glove compartment of the Chevy for years. "Remember the note I left you after fixing your car?" he asked. "About the road you choose next?" Michaela nodded, the memory vivid despite the months that had passed. "For the road you choose next, I hope I'm somewhere along it," she quoted. "Was so afraid you'd drive away," Ethan admitted, "that I'd lost you before I really had you." "But I didn't drive away," Michaela reminded him, touching the keychain gently. "I chose a road with you on it." "And now I'm asking if you'll choose another road with me," Ethan said, dropping to one knee. From behind the keychain, he produced a small velvet box. "A longer, more permanent road." Michaela's breath caught as he opened the box, revealing a ring, not the ostentatious diamond she might have expected from a former CEO, but a simple, elegant band with small stones set flush within the metal. "It's made from melted-down tools from both our father's collections," Ethan explained. "Your dad's wrenches, my father's screwdrivers. Eleanor helped me find a jeweler who could do it." "It's beautiful," Michaela whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "Michaela James," Ethan said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "Will you marry me? Be my partner in all things, for all time?" "Yes," Michaela answered without hesitation. "Absolutely yes." As he slipped the ring onto her finger, as their lips met in a kiss that promised forever, Michaela thought of the unlikely road that had brought them here, from a broken-down car to a shared life and future. Who would have thought that the poor guy fixing her car would turn out to be so much more than his apparent circumstances? Not just a wealthy business owner, but the love of her life. And who would have guessed that in losing the trappings of wealth and status, Ethan would find something far more valuable? The pasta sauce began to bubble over, breaking their moment with the sizzle of liquid hitting the stovetop. Laughing, they moved together to save their dinner, working in the easy synchronicity they'd developed both in the shop and at home. Later, as they shared the news with Rose and Eleanor via a video call that resulted in tears and celebrations from both grandmothers, Michaela caught Ethan watching her with a look of pure contentment. "What?" she asked, self-conscious under his gaze. "Just thinking about how lucky I am," he replied. "That your car broke down, that you came to Reynolds Auto, that you gave me a second chance." "We're both lucky," Michaela corrected him, holding up her hand to admire the ring that represented so much more than an engagement. "And both exactly where we're supposed to be." In the background, Rose and Eleanor were already discussing wedding dates and venues, their excitement bubbling through the phone. But Michaela and Ethan were lost in their own world, seeing in each other's eyes the road ahead, a journey they would travel together, come what may. The next morning, as they opened the shop, Michaela hung a small sign beside the register right under her father's photograph. It read simply, "Sometimes the road you're on leads exactly where you're meant to be." And as their first customers of the day arrived, as Ethan greeted them with the same warmth and attention he'd once shown a worried young woman with a broken-down car, Michaela knew those words had never been more true. Andy.